Welcome back to Created to Connect, a course on the Enneagram that is led by me, Nathan Whitaker. I'm a coach for Preparing for Amazement, and I'm very excited still about this course as we get deeper and deeper into the layers that are here in the Enneagram and what that means for us. The reason why we use the Enneagram is because it is for connection. Interdependency is a word that we're going to start talking about or start using in the sessions to come. But it's about relational health and about connecting to one another. And that starts by focusing on ourselves and seeing how we're made and what our personality is. And as a reminder, our personality is a tool we use. The personality that we have is not a complete wholeness of who we are. We are more than our personality. And so we explore what those personalities are through the Enneagram and how they limit us, but also, especially, how they help us. Through the course, we've been taking these different sections. In the first one, we kind of introduced the Enneagram, some key concepts along with what we're going to be doing. Last time we talked about the triads, the background noise that we're going to get to as a review in just a second. This time we're going to be talking about the types within each of those triads, because those types are why we do the Enneagram to begin with, because they really help us understand our tools that we use in this life. Then next time we're going to talk about our needs that are kind of counterintuitive. And then finally we're going to talk about the wholeness that the Enneagram can, not always, but can point us to. As I said, our relational health is the key. Personalities are tools for us to achieve what we think we can get on our own. And relational health is a reminder that we need other people. And we're going to talk a lot about that next time. But these are reminders to help us pursue that connection with other people. If you haven't already, be sure to print out and get out. I hope you've already printed it out a few sections in. That Enneagram 1 sheet. We talked about the first layer, which is basically the design with the threefold triad symbol in the middle. And we're going to start building upon those with the numbers today. Last time we talked about the foundational concept within the Enneagram. I helped that by saying that it's kind of our background noise. And I think that's just a really good way to think about the triads, because the background noise is something we don't pay attention to and yet is always there. In the same way, each of the triads have background noise, whether that is the gut type that has anger, the heart type that has shame, or the head type that has fear. And those are always behind the scenes. And I should have said this last time, I'm going to say it again, or say it now more forcefully than I would have before. And that is that all of this is not judgmental. None of the Enneagram is judgmental. In other words, the Enneagram is not prescriptive. It's not saying that this type is better than this type or this triad is more helpful than that triad. It is simply descriptive. It is describing the fullness of who people are, or rather the tools they use as personalities. And so none of these are good or bad, they just are. And these background noises, even though they might strike us as being kind of offensive or at least personal, they're not meant to strike us and say that we're bad for doing these things or having these things. In fact, it's to help us understand that those things are just part of who we are. It's just part of what it means to be a human being. We talked about those triads last time. This time we're going to be talking about the types. And the types is what draws everybody to the Enneagram, because many believe it is a personality test. It's a way for us to understand our personality, or rather ourselves, because we believe a personality is ourselves. But these types are not who we are. They are a tool that we use in order to accomplish what we need. And this is a fun section because these tools are to be celebrated. We're going to talk about their limitations here in a little bit, next section and the following. But for this one, we need to celebrate these. These types are amazing. This is the fullness of what we've done with what God has given us to be able to get what we need. And again, there are limitations. It's not the whole story, but it is a really cool part of who we are. We're all made in the image of God, and each one of these personality types, they draw from part of who God is, that image that's been given to us, and we just expound upon them and make it wonderful. They help us appreciate who God is, part of who we are, and part of who other people are. Part should be like all of that, part of who God is, part of who we are, and part of who others are. But it really helps us see the beauty of humanity. And this is one of the key things about the Enneagram, is it helps with empathy. It helps us understand that people are doing quite literally the best that they can, that they're doing whatever they can with what they've been given and what they've developed. And this is a time for us to celebrate that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through each of the types. There might feel like there's a little bit more reading in this one because I want to be as precise as I can. I'm not going to read from my screen, but it will sound a little bit like that. But on your chart, there's this section called strengths under each type. And that's what we're really focusing on. I'm going to give you a bigger narrative for each of those, but those strengths are really what make each type wonderful. So let's do that. Let's start with a gut triad. That's how we're doing. We're going around the Enneagram circle, starting with type 8. And type 8 is the challenger and leader. 8s are self-confident, they're strong and assertive, they're protective, they're resourceful and decisive. They can also be proud and domineering when they kind of lean into their stress. 8s feel like they have to control their environment, and as a result, they often become confrontational and intimidating. They're not doing it out of malice, it's because of their desire to control things that's happening. And again, let me pause. This is not judgmental, this is just describing who people are. Now, we have different experiences for each type. So when we hear they're trying to control things, we might think of that as being a negative. But it's not. It's just how 8s live in this world. And oftentimes, we don't recognize that they're trying to control things, right? It's just because that's how they operate. They typically have problems with allowing themselves to be close to other people. But at their best, healthy 8s are highly, highly self-mastered people. They use their strength to improve other people's lives as they master their own, and they even become the heroes, the magnanimous people, and sometimes even historically great. And you can read through those strengths that are there. Every single word captures who an 8 is. They truly are our leaders in this world. They are powerful, wonderful people. The 9s, they are the peacemakers. They are the mediators. Most 9s don't like that word. I actually don't like it, but it might fit for some 9s. 9s are accepting, they're trusting, and they're stable people. They are the almost naturally good-natured people. They're kind-hearted and easygoing. They are to a T. They're supportive and willing to go along with others to just make the situation peaceful, right? Peacemakers. They want everything to be without conflict. They resist conflict more than most types. And that tends to make them sometimes complacent. And they also start to minimize what they or others are feeling about a certain situation. They typically have problems with passivity and apathy. They tend to be more apathetic when they're stressed out. But at their best, healthy 9s are all embracing. They're able to bring people together and work through conflict. So that's where the mediator comes out, or if you like, the peacemaker. They are really able to bring people together, and 9s are wonderful for that reason. 1s are ethical and conscientious. They have a strong sense of right and wrong. They are teachers and crusaders, always striving to improve things around them, improve them not just for themselves, but for other people, or sometimes simply for the sake of improving things. They're usually well organized and orderly people. They have high standards for themselves and for others, and sometimes those high standards can slip to being problematic or critical towards themselves or others. They typically have problems with repressed anger and impatience, but at their best, healthy ones are wise, discerning, realistic, and noble people. They are usually the people we look towards when it comes to ethical decisions and discerning right and wrong. Ones are really great people, and I guarantee you all know a one in your life because we need them. Twos are empathetic, sincere, and warm-hearted people. They are friendly, generous, and self-sacrificing. They're also sentimental in both good and problematic ways. They are flattering and people-pleasing in both senses of the word. They're driven to be close to other people's, and they will work to be close to other people's. And they often do things for others in order to be needed. And we could talk about that more as they go. They typically have problems taking care of themselves and not acknowledging their own needs, but at their best, healthy twos are unselfish and altruistic, and they have unconditional love for themselves and for others. Threes are self-assured, attractive, and charming people. They are the people that look like they're the natural-born leaders, but they are called the performers or achievers, and they love getting things done. They are ambitious, competent, and highly energetic, but they can also be status conscious and highly driven for personal advancement. They can, and that's both good and bad, right? This is not prescriptive, this is descriptive. So it's just describing who people are. They typically have problems with workaholism and competitiveness, but at their best, healthy threes are self-accepting, they're authentic, and everything they seem to be role models who inspire others. They really are truly inspiring when you see what they can accomplish for themselves, but also for other people. And finally, in the heart triad, fours. They are self-aware, sensitive, reserved, and quiet. They are self-revealing. They are emotionally honest people, but they can also be a little moody or self-conscious at times. They withhold themselves from others due to feeling overwhelmed and vulnerable and even defective. They can also feel disdain towards others and exempt themselves from everyday life. They typically have problems with self-indulgence and self-pity, but at their best, healthy fours are inspired and highly creative people. They're able to renew themselves and transform the world around them. Fours are creative, artistic people who see the world in a different way than most of us do, and we love them for it. Turning to the head triad, we have the fives. Fives are alert, insightful, and infinitely curious. They are able to concentrate on focus on developing complex ideas and skills. They can become preoccupied with those thoughts often. They also can become detached. They kind of go into, Sherlock Holmes calls it a mind palace. And you'll see them, they're thinking inside their brain, they're kind of present, but not. And they typically have problems with isolation and eccentricity as a result of that. But at their best, healthy fives are visionary pioneers. They often are ahead of their time and able to see things that nobody else is able to see. Fives are the meaning makers for many people in this world, and we love them for it. Sixes are the most common type. They comprise something like 30 to 40% of people. Again, this doesn't make them better or worse than anybody. It's just how it is. 6s are reliable, hardworking, and responsible people. They can also, however, be defensive or evasive and highly anxious. They are people who run on stress and complain about it as they do. They do amazing things on the stress that they have, but then they also struggle with that stress. They can often be cautious and indecisive, but they can also be very reliant and decisive on what they need to do. They typically have problems with self-doubt and suspicious, but at their best, they are self-confident and self-reliant. They are people who really focus on being able to make a world for themselves and those that they love. And they are courageous, supporting the weak and the powerless. You will find lots of 6s in healthcare for this reason. 6s are great people. You know, without a doubt, several 6s, because they're just about everywhere. And they're great people for what they do and for who they are. And finally, in the head type, a kind of surprise would be the 7s. The 7s are the life of the party. They're versatile, they are optimistic, and they're spontaneous. Things that do not describe a 5 and a 6. They're playful, high-spirited, and practical, but they can also be overextended and scattered. They constantly seek new and exciting experiences in life, but they can also become distracted easily by staying on the go. They typically have problems with superficiality. They are the classic extrovert that knows lots of people, but not very many of them deeply. And they can also be impulsive. However, at their best, 7s focus their talents on worthwhile goals, and they become the most joyous and wonderful people to be around. And they are usually full of gratitude at their healthiest, recognizing that so much in this life is taken for granted, and they just enjoy life in a way that many of us look towards to say, why can't I be more like them? But 7s are great. They are funny. They are wonderful. They're fun to be around. And for that reason and more, we love 7s. Those are the types. Of course, this is a brief overview. We can't go into everything deeply. If you take one of our staff retreats, or if you take something specifically on the Enneagram, we spend more time developing these types with the people in the room, and it's a lot of fun to see how people come alive, realizing how cool they are as the people developing these personalities that get them through this world, and get them connecting to one another. And it's just a joy. Even the most staunch, stoic person will start to light up to realize how cool it is that God gave them this ability to create this tool to be so wonderful in this world. So if you haven't already, please take that personality test. Again, that's not the fullness of what the Enneagram is, but if you go to the Enneagram Institute, the resources should be up for you right now. Please go and take that so that you can understand more about your personality that you use in order to do amazing things. And I promise you, it will be fun. It will be a little revealing, and it can be hard to read those, but it will be fun to discover part of who you are, a significant part of who you are. We'll see you next time.